Hi guys, Chris here with Super Savvy Travelers, and we are so excited because we're here with David Cantor, who is the
Yeah.
co-owner of ItalianTaxes.com, and we are going to go over some really important information. But first, remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Super important. Okay, so David, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. We're excited. This is a really cool product. Can you give us a brief overview on how the whole thing works?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when people tend to think of taxes, it's like, I mean, I know a few people that like to talk about it a bit more than others, especially at the dinner table. But nonetheless, it's still something that you have to do. And in Italy, like many other things, there's bureaucracy to it, there's layers to it, there's complexities to it. Also, like many things in Italy, things are a bit, for better or for worse, antiquated, right? Things take time here. And so what we aim to do, I'm one of the co-founders of ItalianTaxes.com, along with two other co-founders. I've been living in Italy for 6 years. I'm a dual U.S. Italian national and a lawyer by background, and have a history of launching products, mostly in the cross-border space. So super excited about the launch of ItalianTaxes.com. This initial launch is focused on a very specific individual. So as you've mentioned, those who are non-residents who own property in Italy. In other words, you don't live in Italy, but you have a property here. Maybe you have rental income that comes from that property, whether it's long-term, short-term, etc. We obviously have a bigger vision to streamline the tax filing process in Italy for those who are also residents as well as non-residents. But we're starting off with our initial launch, and it's available now for those who are non-resident property owners with Italian property here. So, yeah, and the idea is to as simple as possible for the individual, without much paperwork. And as you mentioned, there's been some recent changes with requirements for short-term rentals. So yeah, the timing seems pretty favorable for all of this, especially for those who have properties that are listed on the major booking platforms like Airbnb or Booking.com, where there's a lot of questions and concerns with what's going on with the withholding tax and what does that mean for my property and so forth. So yeah, happy to dive into it and happy to be here. Thanks again for
Oh yeah,
having me.
you're welcome. This is, like you said, this is way timely because that whole chin thing just started at the beginning of this year. So it's very exciting to have solutions in place. So how does this work? Pete had walked me through the process a little bit about you. You know, a lot of it is you inputting your own information in a system and then having it reviewed by one of your attorneys before it actually gets filed. So can you elaborate on that a little bit?
But from a macro lens, we still have human touch points, right? And we still want to give an individual that feeling that there's somebody there that is always thinking about compliance, that is thinking about just client experience and going through this process. But we do aim to build technologies, and we have built technologies to kind of fill in these gaps where you don't always need that touch point or that exchange in documents. So yes, as you'll see, a lot of it is initial input from the individual who obviously has that information. And we built it in a way that we believe is somewhat user friendly. It's a good experience. It's in a language that you understand. It has prompts that are easy to understand and put into a common language.
Mm.
And with that information, we aggregate everything. We filter it through some of our internal systems, proprietary systems and AI, and then we present it in a very neat packaged way to, as of right now, to commercialistas that we work with across the board, who we have built up trusted relationships over the years. We're also partnered with Studio Legale Meta, which is a leading law firm in Italy. They focus on providing solutions for foreign nationals in Italy, a whole wealth of solutions, but they're a very reputable law firm that we've been fortunate enough to build this technology with,
Mm.
which gives us kind of this sense of compliance first approach, in hopefully building what is one of the premier solutions for filing taxes in Italy. And then the individual ultimately gets back at the end of the day this neatly packaged tax return, with their F-24. Their requirements are to pay the taxes that year and what their tax liability, if any, is in Italy. We also have the capacity to submit payments on behalf of those individuals.
Wow.
So there's not really a communication with the individual and a commercialista or an accountant, right? It's really just an individual going through this process themselves, getting back everything they need to go through the process.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. And you say ultimately you're going to have that for people that are not necessarily renting out properties, right? Anybody that makes an income over here. Wow. That's
Exactly. That's the idea. We decided to start with a very specific type of client profile, and then expand from there to other sources of income that are derived here in Italy, even
yeah.
for those who are residents.
Yeah, that is amazing because I would have to say, like, especially in Calabria, the majority of the rentals down there were pretty much under the table rentals.
Mm.
They weren't paying taxes and now they have to, and now, it's a big deal. So this is the ideal solution really for anybody who wants to, as a private individual. It's my understanding it doesn't really work if you're a business. Is that right?
If you're a business, for example, I believe you, and I have to preface this saying I am not a tax lawyer. I'm not an Italian tax lawyer. But if you're an individual that has five or more properties that
Mm.
are through your name, you're kind of automatically, for tax purposes, considered a business,
Ah,
right? It
okay.
becomes a whole new nature of tax liability and exposure there.
Yeah.
So there definitely are complex situations. And we haven't built the technology for all of those situations, including if you're a company filing right now. We're focusing mostly on individuals.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good chunk of the market right there is the individuals. I think that's going to be really, really helpful for them. And it's going to level the playing field for the people that actually have been paying the taxes the whole time. It's going to
Mm.
make everything's a whole lot more equal. So that's really a great product.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
hope so. We hope so. And it's especially interesting with the timing, as you mentioned, right? There is this 21% withholding tax. There was like 6 years of litigation between Airbnb and the Italian authorities and Agenzia Entrate. And ultimately, after 6 years, as of last year, January 2024, they really implemented this new decree. So it's super new. And
Yeah.
there's almost this misconception, and I've been in forums just reading about all of this, where individuals are like, well, okay, they withheld my 21%, booking.com or Airbnb. What does that mean? Does that mean they actually paid it? If they paid it, do I still have to file taxes?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, the answer is yes. Like, you still have to file taxes regardless.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
um,
And is that okay? So that brings up another good question. They're withholding, they're paying. How would that work? Just in a nutshell. I don't want to get into the like weeds on this, but give me that in a nutshell. Like, let's say, Pete and I have had rentals, we still do. And let's say we go through booking.com and it's time to, and we input everything and we send it to you. What does that look like? There's also the hotel tax, which is what in Santa Dominica, it's $1.50 a night per person with a bunch of caveats. So how does all of that work? Is this just for income tax or does it cover the hotel tax?
yeah, this is for personal income tax,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be able to walk you through the exact process as a property owner, meaning like I haven't done it as a property owner myself,
Yeah.
but now this 21% withholding tax applies to that income tax derived from rental income
Okay.
specifically,
Okay.
right?
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
yeah,
I think this is going to clarify a whole lot of things for people. You got that income tax, you got the withholding, you got
yeah.
the hotel tax, and I think it's just going to make it super clear. And I think a lot of people with this chin number, they freaked out because they're like, I cannot navigate this
Mm.
tax system, the Italian tax system. Like you mentioned, Nick Meta. I mean, he's brilliant on Italian taxes, but most of us are like, ooh, we don't want to look over there. So,
Yeah. Yeah, we've been able to dig inside his brain for the last, 6 to 8 months while we've developed this product,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
just pull out what's needed again, so you don't have to kind of go there. You're going there, but you're going through this process feeling like, okay, this is manageable, right? Because even though it sounds like, oh, easy, they apply to 21%, that's all I owe my rental income. It's actually not true. Like, you have other options that might be considered to optimize your tax filing,
yeah.
depending on how long was it a short-term rental for? Where is it located?
Right.
How many properties do you own? right? So there's still like all these factors that need to come into play when you're trying to really maximize and optimize your tax payments. So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is very interesting. And if you miscalculate the taxes, you can be in for penalties, or worse, you can be losing money every year. I mean, it's
Sure.
very easy to lose money on an Airbnb if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So this is a really, really great product. I don't really have any other questions for you because it sounds very simple, which I love. Do you have anything else you want to impart to our guys?
Um, Well, I'd love to kind of give you a bit of a tour,
Sure.
if you're good with that, and then if there's questions along the way, we can dive in there. You can stop me at any point. But yeah, we try to make it simple. There's definitely layers of complexity, but hopefully we built a product that people find value in. And we also try to make it competitive and very transparent in terms of pricing.
Mhm.
So there's a familiarity there. And yeah, if you're good with it, I can just kind of dive in and show you everything.
Yeah, I would love that. I do have to say that it really takes a lot of skill and genius to take a complex subject and make it simple. I always admire that in people.
Uh,
So let's have a tour. I'd love to see it.
Sure. Simple name, ItalianTaxes.com.
Mhm.
And you can just find information on our homepage just about the services that we provide, the solutions that we're building. And feel free to just kind of check out and dig deeper into this. One of my favorite things about this homepage is the Knowledge Hub, where
Yeah.
basically you can dig into, things we're even talking about today, right?
Mhm.
And we're constantly updating this. We're constantly building out the content here for free that people can access and understand a bit more about what they need to know for filing taxes in Italy or preparing for, potentially filing taxes and what needs to be considered.
Wow.
So, yeah, just a homepage of describes who we are and what's going on. And as mentioned, we have, very transparent pricing. It's right
Wow.
here.
Wow.
Um, it's dynamic pricing in the sense that it starts from this for how does it increase? It basically increases depending on how many owners there are, how
Mm.
many people are filing, how
Yeah.
many properties you have. Also, if you need additional services, which we'll see later, such as like getting your deed or cadastrale information about the property, we can do that.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, there's so I'll just kind of I don't know if I go to the get started here. Can you see this tab? I'm just changed the tab. Okay, so if you click get started, you'll end up here. And I
Okay.
won't go through this entire, but this is the initial process that you have to basically create your profile. And as mentioned, it's specific now for property owners. We will in January be rolling out a wider version of this for anyone who has tax exposure here in Italy.
Wow.
But there are some things that you need to get started, that are recommended to have before getting into this. So we'll just kind of go through this, and yeah, I'll just fill in some basic information here, so you can get a sense as to just how it feels. It's
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
pretty easy. This is pretty basic information. Once you fill in just the information about yourself, all the residents. You'll get into other aspects of this, such as the properties and assigning owners. So this is basically adding an owner
Mm.
to an existing property,
Oh, okay.
right?
Okay. Yeah, a
Yeah,
married couple would be two owners, right?
exactly. And you
Okay.
would add if they're listed on the property,
Yeah. Oh,
right?
okay. Okay. Got it.
So yeah, I would say only if they're listed as an owner of the property. So if they're, because in Italy you don't have married filing jointly,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, if they're an owner, yeah, you would want to list them, and then I can show you how you assign that. But one of the things we also built out, which is important, is, a lot of people don't understand if they're tax resident or not,
Mhm.
right? Maybe they're mobile, maybe they lived here part of the year. So we did build out for free, have this kind of this test where you can go through to see whether you're a tax resident.
Yeah.
Um, so there's several main bullet points here, but we get into the granular detail as well to understand, if you are, because if you are, then yes, you are going to have tax residency. You're going to be a tax resident.
Yeah.
So, we don't have to go through this now, but just know that we have the capability where you can actually go through that to assess whether or not you're a tax resident.
Wow.
Then you would add an owner. Okay, please specify your registered resident. Let's just say, yeah, let's say no for now, and then add an owner. So now you can see I've added an owner there. If you have multiple owners,
Hmm.
um, you can add them here.
Wow.
So then you cruise along. Let's say you've got your Calabria seaside home,
Hmm.
and you can where it's located. Um, Calabria. And then we always have a support. We're actually going to be introducing agent support here as well. So it even makes it easier for individuals to ask questions. So you choose, what type of property type you have, if it's residential or it's a B&B, etc., bed and breakfast.
Hmm.
Um, where, if it was purchased, when it was purchased, in what year, because that has tax consequences
Right.
as well. And then, if there's remodeling, you can indicate that because there's certain tax credits that
Yeah.
you can get for that. So let's just say, to keep it simple, that you purchased it this year. Let's say that it was, I don't know, 4 months of a long-term rental, 6 months of a short-term rental, and then the rest would be vacant. Um, and whatever your property tax income might be for that year. All
Wow.
right.
Wow. This is so simple.
Great. That's nice to hear.
Yeah, no, it is. It's something, I'm not super technically literate, and there's no questions for me here. So that's really, really good.
Awesome. Awesome. We don't take that lightly. And this is, I was mentioning earlier, if you did need certain documents for us to get, we can get that. We try and keep the fees pretty low as well.
Oh, okay, that's like for
So
the cadastral plans and the deed and whatnot. Ah,
exactly.
okay. Does
Exactly.
that also that include the certificate of habitability?
Yeah, it would.
Ah, good. That's a
So
great.
So we can do all of that, and that's included in the service fee. Then you have a property, right? And you can add more properties. So if you have
Wow.
multiple properties, you can add that. Everything will be available there. And here's where you start to assign the ownership. So if you're the sole owner, you would assign 100%.
Yeah.
Let's say you only own 50%, somebody else who's not involved in this tax filing owns the other 50%, you can still assign that as well,
Okay.
right?
Hmm.
Because maybe they're not going to be using this system to file taxes. Hopefully
Right.
they are, right? Including whether or not you're a resident in that home or not, during what period. And then if you had tax credits for renovations or for what other reason, you can indicate that here. Um,
Wow. Wow.
and
That.
then you have all the information that's needed, kind of just like you're at the last step already, right? To review
Yeah.
everything.
Wow.
Um, Once that is submitted and you click submit, you'll be brought into a dashboard, which I will just show you as well. So you sign in to a dashboard. It'll automatically take you there after, approving your credentials, and you'll be brought into this place.
Wow. That's
Um,
amazing. It's so easy to keep track of everything too. Now, I want to clarify something. Now, even if you're not a tax resident in Italy, if you're making money in Italy, you still have to pay tax, right?
if you have income that's derived from Italy,
Right, right.
right?
If you're making money on a house that you're renting in Italy, you have to pay tax.
Exactly. If you're not, even if you're not resident here,
Yeah.
and that's true for other sources of income,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So, that's, part of our goal is to expand into those other sources as well. Because yeah, there's tax liability here and people don't know about it. And that could obviously create some issues down the line if your goal is to ultimately, reside here,
Mhm.
which for the most part, hope, it is for many people.
Yeah.
Um, right. Italy is a place that you just keep coming back to.
Yep. Everybody loves Italy. Yeah.
So here's the personal dashboard that you have where you can see these are different properties that entered at a different time, but you can get the gist. It kind of sums up everything.
Hmm.
Um, and you can edit things from inside the dashboard. You can see, who the owners would be, and you can create or remove owners, and you can assign ownership to those properties very easily, all within this dashboard.
Wow.
So same thing we kind of went through just to get into here. Um, and then, as mentioned, there's no cost, right, for any of this. I didn't mention it, but yeah, it's all free to get really to this point.
Wow.
Right? Um, so, let's just say you have, well, let's say it's only the Isola Elba. Um, and I'm doing this just because you can see the tax price or the pricing and how the rental incomes change, right? So you still have two owners. Let's just say we have one over. Let's simplify everything. One property, rental income. Okay, everything looks good. And you want to move ahead. Here we have just like the final pricing. It's based off of the owners that are registered and the properties that are owned and the document retrieval. And there's our partner, as we mentioned earlier, Studio Legale Meta,
Yeah.
who we've helped build this platform with compliance first approach.
Mhm.
You can always book in a consultation with them at an added price. If there's some complications or you need that other extra sense of, kind of guidance.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, this is how it basically works for now.
Well, that is amazing. It's great that you're starting out with this sort of limited pool of people and that you're actually looking at moving into a bigger area. There's a lot of people who either have citizenship here or have residency here, and they may be making some money on various different things. And it's very important that they have a safe and secure way to do all of this stuff. I mean, it's really exciting.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I mean, we're just developing now,
Yeah.
right? We're developing the product. We have people who are actively using it, which is great. We're able to improve on the product. We have a great core team, really experts that are in this field to build it out so it feels manageable.
Wow, David, this is an amazing product. Thank you so much for walking us through it. And this is going to make people's lives so much easier. Wow, David, that it was such a great walkthrough of the product. I can see it's going to make lives so easy. And especially now with the chin number thing where you have to slide in under the tax system in Italy if you're renting out your property and putting it on Airbnb. You can't do it without a chin, and you can't do the chin thing without paying taxes. So this is the timeliest, best product that we can recommend. So, listen, guys, we went over a lot of stuff and some of it's kind of technical. So, I want to know from you, what are your pain points here? What are the things you're worried about in sliding in under the tax system and still maintaining your vacation rental or rentals in Italy? Put it in the comments and maybe we can go ahead and set up a follow-up call and address all of those issues as well. So thanks again, David. That's absolutely wonderful. We are super excited about this product and we can't wait to see more.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Chris. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. You're welcome.